The city of Valyorn was small, quiet, and a little sleepy even by the standards of border settlements. It stood 2 days' journey from the capital of the kingdom of Astorin, close enough to feel protected, and far enough away to live at its own pace. There were no military garrisons here, no guarded trading towers. There was an academy of natural sciences, 3 mills, a Friday market, and several hundred people who wanted to live peacefully. Aaron Felt was one of them. 23 years old, not particularly remarkable in any way, he worked as a junior archivist at the academy. He sorted old records, copied maps, repaired book spines, and dreamed of one day becoming a full-fledged researcher. Not a great one, no. Just someone who wrote small articles about soil geology and who was cited rarely, but still cited. It was a normal, small, completely honest plan. It could have come true. The giants came at dawn. At that time, Aaron was standing by the window with a mug of tea and looking at the fog over the river. He always got up early, a habit from his father, who said that morning was the time when the brain was not yet clogged with other people's words. He mistook the first sound for thunder. Then he realized the sky was clear. The second sound, the crack of wood, made him lean farther out. And then he saw them. 3 figures at the northern edge of the city. Each of them was almost 3 human heights tall, not huge like a mountain, but enough to cross 2 streets with one step. Dark gray skin, hair braided into battle braids with metal rings, leather armor with heavy rivets on their arms and shoulders. Heavy bags and hooks hung from each of their belts. They were the Riate, Amazon giants, a tribe that had been at war with the entire kingdom for 8 generations, that lived in the forests beyond the gray mountains and appeared only to take what they needed: metal, food, prisoners for work. Aaron dropped the mug. Tea spilled across the floor. He ran. Valyorn was not a city of soldiers. When the Riate entered through the northern gates, there was no one there who could stop them. The 3 guards at the gates simply ran in different directions. The townspeople hid, ran to the river, hid children in cellars. Those who tried to resist were simply set aside, like objects in the way, not killed, but humiliated. The Riate did not like unnecessary blood. Aaron knew this from books. They needed workers, and a dead worker was useless. But they killed those who actively interfered. He knew that too. He ran 3 streets before he ran into a dead end. He turned, ran out onto the square, and one of the Riate was already standing there, huge, with a hook in her hand, sweeping her gaze over the fleeing people with the bored look of a hunter who did not need to hurry. Aaron stopped sharply. His legs stopped before he had time to decide to stop. The giantess looked at him. Her height was almost 3 of his heads. Yellow eyes, with vertical pupils. Black hair, heavy as a tar waterfall. She looked at him for a second, then raised the hook, caught it on the collar of his jacket, and simply lifted him up. Aaron dangled in the air, kicking his legs. The giantess studied him with her gaze, the way one studies an incomprehensible tool. Then she lowered him into a large leather bag, already full of people. That was how Aaron Felt was taken prisoner. Inside the bag it was dark, cramped, and hard to breathe. Aaron sat pressed against several other people. He could not see who exactly, only felt shoulders and legs. Someone was quietly crying. Someone was silent with stony tension. The bag moved rhythmically, swaying in time with the steps of the giantess who carried them like a market net. Aaron counted the steps so as not to panic. It was a stupid habit, counting something when it became frightening. His father had taught him. By evening, the bag was lowered to the ground. The people were released not roughly, simply poured outside like small goods. They found themselves in the forest. The first thing Aaron saw was lights. Many lights among the trees. A camp, but not a temporary one, a real one, with buildings made of logs, with awnings, with poles on which something hung. Figures of the Riate moved between the buildings, some tall, others slightly shorter. All in armor, all with weapons. A tribal camp. Large. Permanent. Alive. The prisoners were lifted up, counted, examined. One of the Riate, an elder judging by the number of rings in her braids, spoke briefly in her language, pointing at each person. Aaron did not understand the words, but he understood the intonation. It was sorting. The young and strong to one side. Those who looked weak or elderly to the other. Aaron ended up in the first group. The first night they were kept in a log pen, just a fence the height of a person, with one side open toward the fire. Not torture, but not comfort either. They threw in a little bread, and a leather bag of water. Next to Aaron were 5 others: a miller named Bort, a woman blacksmith named Tessa, 2 farmer brothers whose names Aaron did not remember on that first night, and a quiet old man who kept looking down and saying nothing. "What will they do with us?" Bort asked quietly. "They will force us to work," Tessa answered. She spoke evenly, without fear, although her face was gray. "How do you know?" "The Riate have no men, only women. Someone has to do the dirty work." Aaron knew this from academic records. The Riate were an entirely female tribe. This was a biological anomaly that the kingdom's scholars still had not been able to explain. Girls were born only among them, rarely boys, who were usually given away or killed. They fought, hunted, governed themselves, and they used people as labor. "Will they keep us long?" one of the farmer brothers asked. No one answered, because no one knew. The next morning began with a loud sound. One of the Riate struck the log of the pen with a wooden rod. The sound spread through the camp like a bell. The prisoners were let out. Aaron, squinting from the morning light, looked around. In daylight, the camp turned out to be even larger than it had seemed at night. About 300 Riate, if counting only those visible. The buildings were arranged in a circle around the central fire, a traditional layout for a military camp. Beyond the main circle were warehouses, animal pens, training grounds, and several pens like theirs. So prisoners were not news here. Each prisoner was assigned to a supervisor. Aaron got a tall Riate with closely cropped hair and a scar across her nose. She did not introduce herself. She simply pointed at the shovels and said something briefly. Aaron did not understand. She pointed again at the ground, then at the shovel. He took the shovel and began digging. This continued for 3 days in a row, digging ditches for drainage, carrying logs, clearing a site for a new building. The work was physical, rough, and completely unsuited to a person who was used to sorting papers. By the end of the first week, Aaron's back, legs, and shoulders hurt. By the end of the second, the pain had become familiar. By the end of the third, he had learned to distribute his effort, do everything more slowly than he could, and rest standing up, leaning on the handle of the shovel with the look of someone thinking about the direction of the next strike. The supervisor, whom he mentally called Riss because a similar sound flashed in the way her colleagues addressed her, treated him without cruelty, but also without a trace of softness. Bad work meant a blow to the shoulder. Sufficient work meant being ignored. Good work meant an extra portion of bread in the evening. The system was extremely simple. Aaron memorized everything: the daily routine, the guards' routes, what the Riate ate, how they talked among themselves, who stood above whom. It was an archivist's habit to collect information, even when it seemed useless. More than a month passed. The leaves in the forest began to turn yellow. It was cold in the mornings. The work did not change. That day, Aaron was digging a ditch at the far edge of the camp, where the forest began closer and the soil was softer. Riss sat a few steps away and sharpened a knife. The other prisoners were digging a little farther off. Silence. The shovel struck something hard. Aaron bent down. He cleaned off the soil with his hands. In the ground, wrapped in decayed leather, lay a small metal object. Round, flat, with a chain. A pocket watch. Golden, covered with fine engraving that showed through the layer of dirt in places. The glass was intact. The chain was broken. Only a few links remained. Aaron opened the lid. The dial was beautiful, black with golden numbers, thin hands. But the hands did not move. The winding pin was stuck or broken. The watch had long since stopped. It was impossible to determine when exactly by it. Aaron looked at Riss. She was looking at her knife. He clenched the watch in his fist and continued digging. In the evening, when they were driven into the pen, he pulled out the find and examined it carefully. The other prisoners were not especially interested. Each had their own thoughts, their own exhaustion, their own ways of not going mad. The watch was strange. It was not only its age. The metal did not rust, although it had clearly lain in the ground for a long time. The mechanism did not turn, but it had not fallen apart either. The engraving on the lid was too fine for an ordinary jeweler. Most of all, it resembled what the Academy called instrumental artifacts, objects with an unknown purpose that were found in old ruins and kept under glass as a mystery. Aaron wrapped the watch in a piece of rag and hid it under a stone in the corner of the pen. It was his only personal possession. At night, he did not sleep. Sleeping in the pen was not easy in general. The ground was cold, Bort snored, and outside night birds sometimes cried. But that night Aaron did not sleep for another reason. There was something, not a sound, not light, just a feeling that someone was watching, or thinking, nearby, close up, but invisibly. He closed and opened his eyes several times. An empty pen, sleeping people, the fire outside. And then it happened. The voice was quiet, but very clear. Not in his ears, as if directly in his head, between thoughts. You found me. Aaron sat up sharply, looked around. No one. Do not look outside. I am here. Where? He said quietly, almost soundlessly. In your pocket. He groped for the watch. In the darkness, it seemed warmer than metal should be. 162 years, the voice said without preamble. That is exactly how long I lay in this ground. It is pleasant to speak again. Aaron was silent. You are silent. That is good. Most people scream. Who are you? Aaron asked. I am what remains of one very intelligent person. He did not manage to die properly, so part of him settled here. In the metal, in the springs, in the very patterns you examined this evening. A mage? A magister? That is a little different. The name is not important. What is important is that I have a power you need now, and you have a situation I want to change. Aaron looked at the watch in the darkness. What power? The voice was silent for a second, as if choosing a word. Control. Influence. The ability to make the right person think the right thoughts. You can call it hypnosis if you want. That word exists in your academic books. Hypnosis, Aaron repeated. Yes, but before you start thinking about escaping right now, listen to the conditions. For some reason, Aaron was not surprised by the word conditions. I cannot simply give you power over anyone at any moment. The power works differently. It works through connection, through sympathy, through the fact that a person has already opened up to you a little, at least slightly. If that is not there, hypnosis will last a few minutes and leave only confusion. How much is needed? I measure it. In the darkness, a weak light suddenly flashed on the dial. 10 sympathy points, first level. Enough for a simple command. 30, second. Complete submission for several hours. 50, third. Long loyalty that a person accepts as their own will. Aaron breathed slowly. And 100? The voice in the watch fell silent for a long pause. 100 is no longer hypnosis. It is devotion. Real. Without magic. Just a person who chooses you by themselves. The next morning Aaron got up as usual. He was awakened by the same strike against the log of the pen. The prisoners were driven out to work. Riss stood at the exit, tall and silent, like a pillar with a face. Aaron took a shovel and went. He carried the watch in his fist, hidden under his sleeve. The voice had been silent since morning, but the watch was warm, alive. The work was at the eastern edge of the camp. They had to dig a garbage pit. Dirty, humiliating work. Aaron dug and thought. Sympathy points. How do you gain sympathy toward yourself from someone who barely notices you? It was not a simple question. He remembered from academic works that sympathy was built on several things. Usefulness, attention, the fact that you notice a person and do not simply look through them. This worked even between strangers, even between people who had no common language, perhaps even between a slave and a supervisor. The opportunity presented itself. In the middle of the day, Riss abruptly stood up and went somewhere without warning, simply left. Aaron worked. Then he heard a sound, turned around. Behind one of the trees, about 20 steps away, one of the heavy tool bags slipped from a hook and fell onto the path. Things scattered. Riss grimaced. She was just returning, saw it, and frowned. Aaron, without thinking, put down the shovel and came over. He began gathering the tools back into the bag. Riss stopped, watched. Aaron did not look at her. He simply gathered them neatly, without fuss. Then he lifted the bag and set it so that the hook went into the loop properly. He turned around. Riss was looking at him with an expression he did not decipher immediately. It was not surprise. It was confusion, as if the behavior she expected from him and the behavior she saw did not match. She said something briefly. Aaron did not understand the words, but the intonation sounded like, "Go back." He went back, and then it became warmer in his pocket. He glanced at the watch under his sleeve. A number glowed faintly on the dial. +2. Not bad for the first day, the voice said in the evening. Only 2? 2 is a lot for a first interaction. You did something important. You helped without being asked. Without benefit. She noticed it, even if she did not understand exactly what. How much is needed for the first hypnosis? 10. But do not hurry. If you try right away and there is not enough power, she will feel something strange. She will start watching you differently. That is dangerous. Then how do I gain it faster? The voice was silent. It depends on the person. Everyone reacts to different things. Some are touched by help, some by attention, some by being heard. You must understand what is important specifically to her. Aaron lay on the cold ground and looked at the sky. Observation. That was exactly what he knew how to do. Aaron felt was a bad warrior and a bad blacksmith. He had no escape skills, no strength to break a log, no speed to run away from a 3-meter Re-8. But he knew how to observe, and the next 3 weeks became the most attentive in his life. Riss, as he gradually understood, her real name sounded something like Wrist, but she never introduced herself, was not an ordinary supervisor. She was something between a sergeant and a foreman. She controlled several prisoners, watched the work, reported to the elders. And she had one trait that Aaron noticed on the 5th day. She did not like being asked again. Not because she was arrogant, but because she had a chronic feeling that she was not being heard. The elder Re-8 sometimes gave her tasks, then changed them without warning. The other supervisors sometimes argued with her decisions right in front of the prisoners. Wrist reacted the same way every time. She tensed up, fell silent, obeyed. A person who is not heard is a person who longs to be heard. Aaron began to listen. At first, it was literally impossible. They spoke different languages. But Aaron began learning her language. Not quickly, not aloud. In pieces. He listened to how the Re-8 talked among themselves, memorized words that repeated, matched them with gestures and situations. In the evening in the pen, he repeated them to himself. After 2 weeks, he had a vocabulary of about 70 words. After 3, about 150. That was enough for one day, when Wrist said something to him briefly and irritably, for him to answer not in human language, but in hers. I understand. I will do it. She stopped, looked at him for several seconds, then said something again, already slower, with a different intonation. Testing. He understood half, guessed the rest from context. Yes. Dig there. Wrist looked at him for another second. Not with warmth, but with curiosity. Cold, assessing. But that was already more than ignoring. The watch in his pocket became warmer. +3. Total, 5 out of 10. You are learning the language, the voice said at night. Without a question. A statement. Yes. Smart. When will I reach 10? When she understands that you are not just a tool. You have already done the main thing. You have become a little different from the other prisoners in her perception. That is important. But 5 is not enough. She needs something else. What? Look at her. What else do you see? Aaron thought. She gets tired. Everyone gets tired. No. She gets tired of loneliness. She commands people, but no one speaks to her like a person. Even her own. A pause. Continue. On the 29th day of captivity, a small thing happened that changed everything. Wrist received an assignment to move several heavy boxes from one warehouse to another. She was not given prisoners to help her. The task was considered easy for a Re-8. She carried the boxes alone. Aaron was passing by with a wheelbarrow. Stopped. Looked. Then came over and took the other end of the largest box. Not because he was asked, not because it was expected, but simply because he saw that from 2 sides it would take less time. Wrist looked at him. Did not chase him away. They lifted it together. Carried it in silence. Put it down. Then the second box. Then the third. When everything was finished, Wrist said something. Quietly. Not an order, rather an observation. Aaron understood about a third. The meaning was approximately, you are strange. He thought for a second. I know, he answered in her language, you too. It was insolence. He understood that himself the moment the words had already come out. She looked at him for a long time, then did something unexpected. Snorted. She did not smile. Among the Re-8, that was generally rare. But something in her face changed. The hard lines softened slightly. She took the last bag and left. The watch in Aaron's pocket became almost hot. +5. Total, 10 out of 10. There, the voice said calmly at night. Can I? You can. But listen carefully. The first level is a short command. 1 action. 1 moment. She will perform it and forget that she performed it under influence. But if the command is too strange, too against her nature, even 10 points will not be enough. Do not ask her to kill someone. Do not ask her to do something humiliating. Ask for what is already in her. Just push. Understood. And one more thing. After hypnosis, sympathy points do not disappear. They accumulate further. But a new session requires a new minimum. For the second level, 30. Count. I am counting. Then tomorrow. The next morning, Aaron went out with the prisoners to work. Wrist stood at the exit, as always, pointed at the shovels. The prisoners scattered across the site. Aaron took a shovel. He walked past Wrist and then deliberately slowed his step, reached into his pocket, pulled out the watch. Hey, he said in Riate. Look. She looked at the watch. It was not a blinding, not a flash. Just a moment. When her gaze lingered on the golden dial, Aaron clenched the watch in his hand and said quietly, clearly, let me work today, without supervision. I will not run away. In the next second, something happened. Wrist blinked. Her gaze became empty for a fraction of a second, then alive again. She looked at him, then at the area where they had to dig. Go, she said briefly, and turned to the other prisoners. Aaron went. And that day he worked alone, without a constant gaze at his back, without the feeling that every one of his movements was being watched. It was a small victory, but it was the first victory. She performed it, the voice said in the evening. Soon she will forget that she carried out your command. She will simply remember that she decided that herself. Now what? Now you continue accumulating. And think about the next step. What next step? Do you want simply to escape? Or do you want more? Aaron lay on the cold ground, held the watch before his face, and looked at the dark dial. I want them to stop being a threat to my city. That is more difficult than escape. I know. It will require more than one hypnosis, and more than 10. For this, you will need to subdue not one person, but an entire system. I need Wrist not just obedient for one day. I need her to become an ally. 30 points. Second level. How many do I have now? A weak light on the dial. 12. Aaron closed his eyes. 18 more. That means he needed more time. More conversations. More moments when he would be the one who was noticed. It was not frightening. It was a task. And Aaron felt had always known how to solve tasks. Over the next weeks, Aaron invested in the language. He worked on it every free minute. In the morning, while the other prisoners were still dozing, he repeated the words he had memorized the day before. During breaks between work, he listened closely to the conversations of the Riate. In the evening in the pen, he put words into sentences. A month after the beginning of captivity, he could already maintain a simple conversation. Wrist noticed this once. They were carrying tools together. It had already become almost a habit. Aaron often ended up nearby at the right moment, unobtrusively, without ostentatious servility, and she suddenly asked, "Where did you learn our language?" "Here," Aaron answered. "I listened." "Why?" He thought honestly. "Because it is impossible to understand a person whose words you do not understand." Wrist stopped, looked at him with the same expression of cold curiosity. "You want to understand us?" "I want to understand you," Aaron said. "You are incomprehensible to us, and we are probably incomprehensible to you." It was risky. It could have sounded like insolence. But Wrist snorted again. "You speak strangely for a slave." "I am an archivist," Aaron answered. "We all speak strangely." She said nothing, but over the next few days she began to pronounce words a little more slowly in his presence. Not deliberately, most likely, just a little more slowly. The watch, +4. Total, 16. Wrist was not evil. Aaron understood this gradually and with some surprise. She was a warrior in a system that demanded harshness and left no room for doubt. She did what she did because that was how her life was arranged. Prisoners were tools to her not because she hated them, but because she had never seen them otherwise. This distinction was important. Anger kills the possibility of dialogue, but a habit can be broken. Aaron began talking to her at every convenient opportunity. Carefully, without pressure. He asked questions not about war and not about prisoners. He asked about things he saw. What kind of wood do you use there for the posts? Why is the camp round and not square? Your animals have different hooves than ours. Why? Wrist answered briefly at first, then a little longer. Then one day she explained something herself, without waiting for a question. It was the moment when something switched. She stopped answering and began speaking. +6. Total, 22. One night Aaron was not sleeping. He was sitting by the log of the pen and looking at the fire outside. Wrist was standing guard. This happened rarely. Usually others guarded. But that night she was here. She noticed that he was not sleeping. "Why are you not sleeping?" she asked through the log. "Thinking. What does a slave think about at night?" "About the same thing any person thinks about at night," Aaron answered. "About what was?" And about what will be. Rist was silent. Your people think about their cities? Yes. We think about the tribe. I know. How do you know? Because I listen, Aaron said. You speak of the tribe the way we speak of home. It is the same thing, just in different words. A long silence. You are a strange person, Rist said at last. You are saying that for the second time already. Because it is true for the second time. Aaron almost smiled. It became warm in his pocket. +6. Total, 28. 2 points to the second level. The last 2 points came unexpectedly. The next day, one of the prisoners, the quiet old man whose name was Odin, fell right during work. Not from exhaustion. He had been sick for several days already, simply hiding it because he understood the Re8 could remove the weak. Aaron dropped the shovel and came over. The old man was breathing unevenly, his face gray. Aaron raised his head and looked at Rist. He needs help. Do you have anything for fever? She frowned. A weak prisoner is a useless prisoner. Then let him rest today, and tomorrow he will be useful again. If you do not, you will lose him entirely. It was logic, not a plea for mercy. Aaron consciously chose exactly this approach. Rist looked at the old man. Then she said something briefly to one of her own. Odin was carried into the shade. They brought water and something bitter in a cup. Aaron returned to the shovel. The watch in his pocket became so hot that he almost burned his fingers. +2. Total, 30. 30, the voice said at night. Second level. Aaron was silent. This is a different conversation, the voice warned. The first level is a command for a minute. The second is several hours of complete trust. She will listen to you as an elder, as someone she trusts. How long will it last? 6 to 8 hours. Then it will disperse. She will not remember that she carried out your words. There will only be a feeling that you are important. Will that be enough for her to help me? Enough for her to do something important. But you must understand one thing, Aaron. What? After the second level, there is no going back. If she feels that she was used, that is the end. Both for her and for you. Hypnosis of the second level leaves a trace. Weak, but it is there. Use it only when you know exactly what you want. Aaron lay for a long time. I need more information, he said at last. I want to know who rules the tribe, how their power is arranged, where the weak points are. Then ask her the right questions. Under hypnosis? No. First ask without it. See what she says herself. And if she does not say, then you will know exactly what to ask under hypnosis. Aaron closed his eyes. Outside, the forest fire crackled quietly. He no longer felt like an archivist in captivity. He felt like a person who had gained a plan. Part 2. Ally continuation. Before using the second level, Aaron decided to understand how the tribe was arranged. It was an archivist's habit. Before acting, understand the system. The system determines where the weak points are. The weak points determine where to strike. Not physically, structurally. Over the next few days, he observed more attentively than ever. The tribe was called Varn. He understood this from conversations. The word was repeated often, with a special intonation used for something sacred. Not just a name. Identity. Varn consisted of about 400 Re8, divided into several clans. Each clan had its own name, its own warriors, and its own elder, Mar, which roughly translated as the one who leads. The Mar of the clans obeyed one supreme one, who was called Varnmar, something like a chieftain. The chieftain was a woman named Drite. Aaron had not seen her up close, only from a distance. Huge even by Re8 standards, a head taller than Rist, with a braid completely woven with bronze rings. She moved rarely, spoke quietly, and when she spoke the whole tribe listened. This was the central node of power, but not the only one. The second node turned out to be more interesting. There was a special class of Re8, priestesses called Tal. They did not fight. They wore different clothing, long dark cloaks with a white stripe on the shoulders, and dealt with rituals, healing, and something like recording the history of the tribe. There were few of them, maybe 12 or 15, but they were treated with a different kind of respect than warriors. Even Drite spoke to them differently. The priestesses held cultural memory. And cultural memory in a tribe that lives by war is a second kind of power, often more stable than military power. The third node was the young warriors, those who had not yet received full status. They performed the dirtiest work, proved themselves in their first raids. Among them there was noticeably more dissatisfaction, more conversations, more arguments. It was among them that there was the most tension. Aaron put together a simple picture in his head. The top was Drite, absolute power based on fear and tradition. The middle was the Tall, spiritual authority based on memory and knowledge. The bottom was the Young Warriors, strength without power, dissatisfaction without a voice. Do you see it? The voice asked one evening. I see. And what do you see? I see 3 points, each of which can be entered in a different way. The top through force or fear, the middle through knowledge or ritual, the bottom through a promise. Asterisk good analysis for an archivist. I am an archivist, Aaron answered. That is exactly how we work. Where will you start? With the middle. The priestesses are more important than the warriors. If they understand me, that is authority. But first I need wrist. 30 points. Second level. Are you ready? Aaron looked at the watch. Almost. I need to understand one more thing. What? What exactly wrist wants but cannot get? Hypnosis of the second level will give me several hours of her trust. I do not want to waste that on a simple question. I want her to start cooperating consciously. And for that I need to give her what she wants. The voice was silent. You are smarter than I thought. I am an archivist, Aaron repeated. We read many books about people. It turned out to be easy to understand. Wrist wanted to be heard. She did not want power in the sense of commanding an army or becoming a chieftain. She wanted her decisions to be taken seriously, so that when she said, "This needs to be done this way," she would not be interrupted and ignored. She did not have that. The Elder Mar treated her as an executor, good enough to be trusted with supervising prisoners, but not authoritative enough for her judgments to be listened to. Aaron saw this specifically one day, when Wrist suggested something about the work near the Eastern warehouse, something practical and clearly correct by her tone, and the Elder Mar simply interrupted her and pointed to another place. Without explanations, without discussion, Wrist fell silent, obeyed, and for the next whole hour, she worked with the look of a person who was used to being right, but had no right to be. Aaron chose a moment in the evening, when the work was over and the prisoners were being led back to the pen. You were right about the Eastern warehouse, he said in Riate, passing by Wrist. She stopped, looked at his back. How do you know what was being discussed? I heard, understood, and saw where the boxes were placed afterward. It is inconvenient. Water will collect there after rain. Wrist did not answer. But the next day, when a light rain began, Aaron saw from the corner of his eye. She approached the Elder Mar and said something. This time more quietly, with a different intonation. The elder thought and nodded. The boxes were moved. Aaron said nothing, did not point it out, did not praise her. It was not needed. The watch in his pocket heated up. +4. Total, 34. Good, the voice said at night. You now have more than 30. I know, but I want to wait a little longer. Why? The second level is already open. Because 34 is better than exactly 30. The higher the points above the minimum, the deeper and more stable the effect. You said that yourself. The voice was silent. I did. You really do listen. I listen to everything you say. It is a useful habit. Then tell me what you ultimately want from Wrist. Not this time. In the end, Aaron thought for several seconds. I want her to become the first Riate who voluntarily chooses me. Voluntarily is 50 points. Third level. I know. It is far away, but I want to build toward it. Every time. Why is that important? Hypnosis will be enough for you. No. Aaron shook his head in the darkness. Hypnosis is not enough to build something real. You can force a person to obey, but you cannot force a person to believe. And I need exactly belief. The voice was silent for a long time. You do not think like a magic user. I think like an archivist. We study past states. Those that were built only on fear fell apart. Those built on conviction lasted longer. You are already thinking about a state. Are you surprised? No, the voice said after a pause. To be honest, no. The right moment came 4 days later. Wrist and Aaron were again at the eastern edge of the camp, where he had once found the watch. 2 other prisoners were working farther away. Wrist stood aside, watching the perimeter. Aaron approached. He did not say anything unnecessary, did not create tension. He simply stood beside her and said quietly, "Look at the watch." She looked mechanically, the way one looks at an object being shown to them. The golden dial. Aaron clenched the watch in his hand and said slowly, quietly, almost as a continuation of an ordinary conversation, "You trust me today. You hear me. You answer honestly." Wrist blinked. A second of emptiness. Then her gaze was alive again, but different. A little softer. Without the usual wariness. You wanted to ask something? She said, simply, without a commanding tone. Aaron exhaled inwardly. It works. The conversation lasted almost an hour. Aaron did not hurry. He did not allow awkward pauses and did not ask questions too directly. He spoke like a person who was interested, because he really was interested. Tell me about Dryght, he said. Wrist answered without resistance. Dryght had been chieftain for 20 years. Before her was her mother, Gray, who united 3 scattered Riate clans into one tribe. Before her, Chaos. Dryght held power harshly. She never forgave mistakes twice and always went out on raids first. That was her authority, not words, but presence. Is she afraid of anything? Aaron asked. A split, Wrist said without thinking. 3 clans in one tribe means 3 wills. Gray bound them together with war. Dryght holds them the same way. If there is no war, the clans begin to argue. So Varn is always at war. War for the sake of unity, Aaron said quietly. Yes. And the Tall? The priestesses? Wrist hesitated slightly, but answered. The Tall were older than the current union. They remembered times when the Riate lived differently, not only by war. When they built permanent settlements, traded with other peoples, learned. The Tall preserved this memory, but spoke of it rarely and only within their own circle. Because this memory contradicted the current order. Do they want something different? Aaron asked. Not all. But the elder Tall, Vern, she is old. She remembers. Sometimes she speaks of the past in a way that makes Dryght frown. Aaron remembered this name. Vern, the elder priestess, remembers a different past. And the young warriors? Those who still have no status? Wrist was silent for a while. They are angry. Raids have become rarer. The kingdom is strengthening the borders. The last 2 raids were bad. There were few trophies. The young think they will not be given status because there are no victories. 3 unstable groups, Aaron said quietly, almost to himself. What did you say? Nothing. Thinking. Wrist looked at him for several seconds. You think strangely. I know. She was silent. Why do you need all this? Aaron looked into her eyes. Because I want to understand Varn. Not as an enemy. As a person who wants to know whom he lives with. It was an honest answer. Wrist said nothing, but something in her posture changed. She became slightly less vertical, slightly less sharpened. After 2 hours, the hypnosis began to disperse. She did not notice the difference. She simply decided that today the prisoner had been talkative. The watch in his pocket, +3. Total, 37. At night, Aaron did not sleep. He lay and built a map in his head. Not a geographical one, a structural one. This was what he knew. Dryght held power through war and fear. Her weakness was dependence on an external enemy. If there was no war or it went badly, her power cracked. Right now, that was exactly the case. Vern and the Tall preserved another memory. Riate who had lived differently. They could not speak of it openly, but they remembered. The young warriors were angry at a system that gave them no status. They needed victory, or a new system of values in which status could be earned differently. Wrist was a person in the middle, smart, unloved by the system, searching for meaning and recognition. For points, each of them was an opportunity. And he had a watch with hypnosis. But he was not going to build power only on hypnosis. You are not sleeping again, the voice said. Thinking. About what this time? About the fact that one person under hypnosis is not enough. I need to begin changing how the tribe sees itself. This is not done through control of one person. You are thinking about Vern? Yes. A priestess who remembers something different. If she supports me, that is not just an ally. It is legitimacy. You have 0 sympathy points with her. I know. I need to meet her. She will not speak with a prisoner. Aaron smiled in the darkness. Then I need to stop being just a prisoner. The opportunity to meet Vern appeared unexpectedly. One of the old prisoners, the same Odin whom Aaron had once helped lay in the shade, knew a few things about herbs. He had once worked as a gardener at the academy. The knowledge was small, but practical. The Tall dealt with healing. They had a small section of the camp with dried herbs, bowls, cloth, and tools that Aaron could not identify. One day, he saw one of the priestesses trying to prepare something for inflammation. This was visible from her movements, from the way she frowned and sorted through the plants. She was mixing the wrong thing. Aaron knew this not from personal experience, from academic records. In the archive, there had been an entire series of manuscripts about herbal medicine, and he had sorted them for 2 years. That did not make him a healer, but it did make him a person who had read enough about treatment to understand that two specific plants among those the priestess was trying to use, together, gave not relief, but fever. He approached. The priestess, young, not Vern, looked at him with immediate irritation. A slave does not approach the tall. I know, Aaron said in Re8. But you are mixing two leaves together. They will give fever, not relief. The priestess looked at him coldly. You know our medicine? No, but I know these two plants. It is written about them in our books. A long pause. Human books do not concern our healing. Plants are the same, Aaron answered. The forest does not ask who reads it. The priestess looked at him for several more seconds, then looked at the bowl. Then what instead? Aaron explained. She listened silently, then removed one of the leaves. Go, she said. He went. But the next day he saw, she was working with herbs again, and this time correctly. She did not thank him, did not say anything. But when he passed by, she looked at him differently, not as at a slave, as at an incomprehensible phenomenon. A few days later, another priestess approached him. Older. She asked briefly, Are you the slave who spoke to Ed about the leaves? Yes. The tall wants to ask you something. Vern turned out to be very old, even by Re8 standards. Small, well, relatively, about 2.5 meters, not 3, dried out, with deep wrinkles and such bright eyes that it seemed everything else in her body had long grown tired, but her eyes had not. She looked at him for a long time, then said without preamble, Where did you read about our plants? At the academy. I am an archivist. What is an archivist? One who preserves records. Maps, books, manuscripts. Memory of the past. Vern did not move. A keeper of memory. You could say that. We also have keepers of memory, she said. We are called tall. I know. She narrowed her eyes slightly. From where? I observe. I listen. Why would a slave observe? For the same reason as any person, Aaron answered. Because the world is more interesting when you understand it. Vern was silent for several seconds, then nodded. Come tomorrow. I want to ask you about your books. This is no small step anymore, the voice said at night. No. Do you understand that the priestess is more dangerous than Rist? If she decides you are a threat, she will tell Drite. I understand. And you are still going? Yes. Because Vern is the key to the tribe's memory. And memory is greater than any warrior. You have 0 points with her. Without the minimum, hypnosis will not help. I am not going to hypnotize her. What? I am going to convince her myself. The voice was silent. Are you sure? No, Aaron answered honestly. But I think that a person who preserves inconvenient memory is looking for someone who will hear it. Just as Rist was looking for someone who would hear her opinion. People have different needs. But loneliness is universal. You have read too many books about people. That is exactly why I am here, Aaron said. And not in the pen. The first meeting passed cautiously. Vern asked about books. Aaron answered. She did not believe a single word, but she listened because the words matched what she knew from other sources. This irritated and attracted her at the same time. The second meeting was longer. At the third, Vern herself began to speak. Gradually, Aaron understood what she preserved. 3 generations ago, before Grey, before the unification, the Re8 had lived differently. Not in military camps, but in settlements. They traded with some human cities in the north, did not fight with them. They had workshops, weavers, blacksmiths. They had records not on paper, but on leather and stone. They built. Then one of the human kings came, not a Storin, another, long-vanished state, and burned 3 Re8 settlements in a row. Not because they attacked, because he wanted their land. After that, Grey united the clans. After that, the war began. So, Aaron said cautiously, the war began because someone struck first. Yes, Vern answered. And since then it has continued. Both sides strike and receive strikes. Yes. And each new generation is born already in war and thinks it has always been this way. Vern looked at him. You are saying this to free yourself? No, Aaron answered. I am saying this because it is true. I am an archivist. I know that wars which seem eternal almost always began with one moment. And that moment was a human decision, not fate. A long silence. Why do you need to know this? Aaron thought. Because I want to understand whether something else is possible. Vern looked at him for a very long time, then said quietly, the first human in 40 years who has asked me that. The watch in his pocket became hot. +8. Total with Vern. 8. Rist noticed that Aaron was going to the tall. She said this to him briefly, They notice it. Who? The Mar. The elders. And what do they think? That you are a strange slave. I have heard that more than once already. Wrist looked at him. The hypnosis had long since dispersed, but something remained, not from magic, but from the conversations themselves. More and more often, she stopped beside him without any task. Just stood there. Why do you talk to Varen? She knows a lot. What do you need to know? Aaron looked at her directly. Wrist. I am not going to run away. She narrowed her eyes. Why? Because if I run away, what will change? The Varn tribe will attack some city again. Once more? And again. This has been going on for 8 generations. This is our path. But it is not the only path, Aaron said. Varen knows that. You know it too, if you are honest with yourself. Wrist was silent. You should not say such things, she said at last. I know. It is dangerous. I know. Then why? Aaron looked at her. Because someone must. A long silence. Wrist was the first to turn away. But before leaving, she made a small gesture with her hand. Almost unnoticeable. But Aaron understood. It was a sign that she had heard. The watch, +5. Total with Wrist, 42. Her name was V. One of the young warriors without status, whom Aaron had long since noticed. Tall even for a Re-8, sharp, with the constant expression of someone who had something to prove. They collided by chance. V was dragging a heavy rim from a cart, caught it on a post, cursed, looked around. No one nearby, except Aaron. He silently took the rim from the other side, eased the angle, pulled it out. V looked at him in surprise. You helped me. Yes. You are a slave. I helped a person with a heavy object, Aaron said. It does not depend on who I am. V looked at him with an expression he already knew, that same incomprehension that comes before curiosity. You are strange. I am told that often. She snorted, almost like laughter, but not quite, and dragged the rim farther. The next day, she ended up nearby again. Whether by chance or not was unclear. She asked one question about the prisoner's work. Aaron answered. On the 3rd day, already 2 questions. On the 4th, she simply stood nearby and was silent. But silent in the way people are silent beside someone with whom they can be silent. The watch, +4. Total with V. 4. Your network is growing, the voice noted. Still small. 3 points. Wrist, Varen V. 3 different layers of the tribe. I need more. But I must not hurry. If I work with them too obviously, it will be noticed. You are already careful. I am afraid. That is good. Good. One who is not afraid does not count the risk. You count it. That is the difference between a smart plan and a dead hero. Aaron grinned in the darkness. You speak strangely for a watch. I speak strangely for a mage who died 162 years ago, the voice corrected. For a watch, I speak perfectly decently. Everything changed in one day. One of the prisoners, the farmer brother, the one who had been taken together with Aaron, tried to run away. The attempt was badly prepared and failed in 10 minutes. He was caught at the western edge of the camp. This was nothing unusual. Prisoners sometimes tried to escape, and it was considered a standard violation. But on this particular day, the mood in the tribe was bad. Several days earlier, a Varn reconnaissance detachment had returned with bad news. The kingdom of Astorin had strengthened the border. New posts, new walls. The next raid would be harder and more costly. This angered Drite, and she decided to show that order held. The fugitive was tied to a post in the central square of the camp. It was a warning to everyone. Aaron saw this, and saw something else. Wrist stood aside and watched with the expression of a person who found it unpleasant, but did not speak. V with a look as if this was right. Varen did not come out at all. In the evening, when the prisoners were driven into the pen, Aaron sat and thought. This moment was important, not because the cruelty was unexpected, but because it was an exact illustration of how Drite's power worked. Fear as a substitute for argument. You are thinking about what you saw? The voice asked. Yes. And what do you think? I think Drite is afraid. Not of an external enemy, but of internal collapse. That is why at the first convenient opportunity, she shows strength. Does that make her more dangerous or less? Aaron was silent for a while. More dangerous in the short term, less in the long term. Because power through fear works only while it is frightening. As soon as an alternative appears, fear falls apart. You are going to become the alternative. Yes, that means you are going to clash with Drite. Not head-on. That is suicide. But it is possible to go around her. If I gain enough support from below and from the tall, Drit will not be able to remove me without risking a split. And a split is her greatest fear. You are using her fear against her. Yes. Are you sure you are an archivist? I was an archivist, Aaron answered. Now I do not know. The next day, Rist approached him first. Without reasons. Without work nearby. She simply came over, stood opposite him, and said, I thought about what you said. About what exactly? About the fact that someone must say things that are dangerous to say. Aaron waited. Yesterday was wrong, she said quietly. Not because of the violation, but because. She stopped, choosing words. Because it does not make us stronger. Only more frightening. Yes, Aaron said. I should not be telling you this. I know. Then why am I saying it? Aaron looked at her. Because you needed to say it to someone. And you know that I hear. Rist looked at him for a long time. Then turned away. Today you have light work, she said in a commanding voice. Inventory in the northern warehouse. And left. Aaron stood and looked at her back. The watch in his pocket. +7. Total with Rist, 49. One step to the third level. To true devotion. 49, the voice said at night. Not rushing. Just stating. I know. Do you understand that the third level is no longer hypnosis in the usual sense? It is not a command. It is the moment when a person fully opens up to you. After that, she will remember. Everything. The conversations, the help, everything you meant to her. Magic is only the final push. Everything else you did yourself. I know, Aaron repeated. The final step is yours. Not mine. Aaron lay in the darkness and thought. Tomorrow. He would tell her tomorrow. Not under hypnosis. Just the truth. He found her in the morning before work began. Rist. She stopped. I need to tell you something honestly. She looked at him without words. I am not just observing out of curiosity, Aaron said. I am thinking about how to change what is happening between your tribe and people. Not through escape. Not through war. Through something else. And for that, I need people who see farther than one season of raids. Silence. You think about this, he continued. I saw how you stay silent when you are not heard. I saw how you looked at the tied prisoner. You think about this. You are a dangerous slave, she said quietly. Yes. Dry will kill you if she hears. I know. Then why are you telling me? Aaron looked into her eyes. Because I believe in you. It was simple. Without embellishments. Without tricks. Without hypnosis. Just the truth. Rist looked at him for a long time. And suddenly something changed in her gaze. Not sharply, not dramatically. As if a door long closed slowly opened from the inside. Not because it was pushed, but because someone had called. The watch in Aaron's pocket became so hot that he almost dropped it. +1. Total, 50. At that moment, a new mark flashed on the dial. Quietly, only for him. Third level opened. You did it, the voice said quietly. But note, you did not use me. I know, Aaron answered in his pocket, soundlessly. The final push if you want. Or not needed. She is already here. Aaron looked at Rist. She was waiting. Not under hypnosis. Simply waiting. Help me, he said. Not me alone. Both peoples. A long pause. What do you need from me? For now, little. Information. Time. Sometimes to close your eyes to what a prisoner should not do. Rist looked at him so long that he thought she would refuse. Then she said, I promise nothing. I am not asking for promises. But I am listening. And that was more than a promise. It was the beginning. The third level of hypnosis turned out to be nothing like what Aaron had expected. He had thought of a loud command, of instant submission, of a sharp break in another's will. But the voice in the watch explained differently. 50 points is not an order. It is a bridge between his words and another person's choice. At this level, a person does not simply hear Aaron. They begin to perceive him as someone whose opinion has inner weight. Not an imposed will, but almost natural rightness. The power here no longer breaks. It makes his presence significant. But there is a condition, the voice added. If you have no real foundation, if you are lying to yourself or to her, the effect will be short. You will not be able to hold a person on emptiness for long. The third level loves truth, even if it is inconvenient. Aaron understood this as a warning. If he truly wanted to change Varn, he needed not just control. He needed meaning that would withstand examination. That was exactly why he did not go straight to Drit. First, he went to those who felt the cracks in the tribe. V was the first. Aaron found her at the training ground, where young Riate threw spears at wooden targets with foreign symbols. To Aaron, it looked like ordinary training, but from the looks and intonations it was clear What was being decided here was not only who threw more accurately, but who would receive the right to be heard tomorrow. V stood apart, gloomy, with a spear on her shoulder. She was good at the exercises, but bad at making the elders notice it. Tribes like such people least of all. Too capable, too independent, too inconvenient. Aaron approached and did not immediately start talking about power. You throw farther than everyone, he said instead. V turned around. So what? That means you are stronger than they want to consider you. It was a simple phrase, almost without magic. But V stopped. You say strange things, slave. I say what I see. V narrowed her eyes. And why do you need that? Aaron looked at the training ground, at the young ones who tried hard but already knew in advance that half of them would be sent to dirty work and the other to useless raids where there would be no status. Because a system where the best young warriors wait years for a chance breaks itself, he said. V was silent. Aaron continued. You are angry not without reason. You do not want only glory. You want your strength to mean something. Here V looked straight at him for the first time. Not irritably, not aggressively, with interest. If I could change the rules, she said slowly, I would do it. I know. How? Because you have not left now. This was the first small victory. Not hypnosis. Not pressure. Just an exact understanding of who stood before you. The watch in his pocket twitched with warmth. +9. Total for V, 13. With Vern, everything turned out more complicated. The elder priestess could not be bought with flattering words, was not frightened by hints, and did not yield to direct conversations about benefit. She lived in her own coordinate system, where duty, memory, and how the people would live in 20 years mattered more. Aaron understood that if he wanted to win her trust, he needed not to talk about power. He needed to talk about the past. One day, he brought her a list of plants that were in the camp and separate notes on 3 herbs similar to those used among the people of the northern lands to reduce inflammation. He did not simply list their properties. He showed how different cultures had independently come to similar solutions. Vern listened silently, then asked, Why do you bring us human knowledge if you could use it against us? Aaron answered honestly, because knowledge becomes stronger when it does not belong to one people. This seemed to catch her. She looked at the sheets for a long time, then said, Do you have a song about ancestors? Aaron blinked. Humans have many songs about ancestors. We do too, but I am not asking about music. About memory. About what is passed on when no one wants to listen to it. Aaron understood that she wanted to talk not about herbs. Yes, he said. We have chronicles, legends, family records. But they are often distorted. Ours too, Vern answered. And suddenly, for the first time all this time, she began speaking not as a priestess, but as a keeper. She told him how the Tal recorded history on stones, how they tried to preserve the old settlements and old names, how Gray first came to them for advice, and then the war changed everything. Aaron listened. It was important to let her speak. People who have not been allowed to be heard for years especially value someone who knows how to listen. The watch became hot. +6. Total for Vern, 14. Wrist noticed the changes first. She herself did not know exactly how she felt it. But she noticed. Aaron was no longer just a prisoner who talked. He had begun to become the center of quiet, almost invisible connections. You talk to the young ones, she said in the evening. Yes. With Vern too. Yes. You understand that this is no longer a coincidence? Aaron looked at her. Of course. And you still continue. Yes. Wrist was silent, her brows drawn together, then asked, What do you ultimately want from us? This question was important. He could have answered freedom, but that would have been only half true. He could have said help, but that too would have been too small. Then he said what was deeper. I want Varn to stop living only by war. Wrist looked at him for a long time. You speak like the Tal, she said at last. No, the Tal speak more carefully. You speak more dangerously. Aaron smiled slightly. Perhaps. Something like tired irony flashed in her eyes. And that was already much better than wariness. The watch, +3. Total for Wrist, 52. At this stage, Aaron understood that he already had 3 supports. Wrist, a connecting link. Internal soldier's logic, a person of the system. Vern, memory and legitimacy. V, young strength and dissatisfaction with a future without meaning. But for now, these were separate points. For them to become something greater, they needed to be made to touch. The first such moment happened by chance. A problem with the distribution of food was discovered in one of the side warehouses of the camp. The elder Mar of the clan responsible for the warehouse quarreled with Vern's assistant. The young warriors who had been promised an additional ration after the raid did not receive it on time. Whispers began, then sharp words. Aaron was the first to notice that the conflict could grow into a fight. He did not run to Drite. That would have been too crude. He went to Rist. If this starts now, the whole camp will be talking about it tomorrow, he said. The elders will look incompetent, the young offended, the tall ignored. And what do you suggest? Rist asked. Let me speak with V. Then with Vern's assistant. Then with you. I will gather them in one place and make them not argue, but listen. Rist was silent for a long time. Why can you do this? Because I am not part of their power. It is easier to talk to me. She looked at him and unexpectedly said, Sometimes it seems to me that you are building something greater than just an escape. Aaron did not answer. Because it was true. He no longer thought only about getting out of captivity. He thought about how to turn captivity into an entry point. In the evening, Aaron gathered them in a place where nets were usually dried and belts stored, an unofficial neutral space where no one felt like the master. From one side came Rist. From the other, V. A little later, Vern came with a young assistant named Kala. They stood in the circle of light from the fire and looked at one another with distrust. Aaron stood between them. You have a problem, he said calmly. V frowned. We know that. No, Aaron answered. You know that you are angry, but you do not know what to do with it except argue. And an argument is exactly what those above are waiting for. Rist crossed her arms. And what do you suggest? Listen to each other, one at a time, without interrupting. V snorted. Hearing the elders is one thing. Listening to a slave is another. Aaron did not react to the insult. He only looked at her calmly. Then do not listen to me. Listen to the result. If you do not resolve the conflict with the food now, the elders will blame each other. The young will remain without rations, the tall will lose influence, and Drite will tighten order even more. Do you want that? Silence. This was not a hypnotic command. It was logic delivered with confidence. Vern spoke first. He is right. This was the first word that moved the ice. Then Kala began. Then Rist. Then V. Reluctantly, but already without open irritation. Aaron did not resolve their dispute himself. He simply created a space where they were forced to hear one another. And it worked. By the end of the conversation, the ration order was changed. The young were promised an additional share for the night shift, and the tall were given access to the warehouse of medicinal herbs. The watch in his pocket, plus 12. This was already more than simply increasing sympathy. It was the first time Aaron felt that people were beginning to see him not only as a prisoner, but as a person without whom the solution would have been worse. Power always feels when independent movement begins below. Drite learned of the meeting quickly. Perhaps someone reported it. Perhaps she noticed herself. The next day, Aaron was summoned to the central part of the camp for the first time, not for work, but for a conversation. It was dangerous. Very dangerous. He walked through the camp, feeling the gazes on him. Tall posts, smoke from fires, weapons on stands, silent figures of the Riate. All of this now seemed like a system that could collapse shut at any moment. Drite sat on a raised platform under an awning of dark hides. Beside her stood the Elder Mar and two tall priestesses. Rist was not there. V2. Aaron stopped below. Drite looked down at him. You have been walking without supervision for a long time for a prisoner, she said. Aaron was silent. You talk to my people. Yes. You create noise. No, Aaron answered. The noise was already there. I simply help people hear one another. At this, something cold flashed in Drite's eyes. You are too bold for a slave. And you are too cautious for a chieftain who wants eternal war, Aaron said quietly, before he had time to stop himself. For a second, no one breathed. This was perhaps the most dangerous phrase of his life. But Drite did not strike. She smiled. An unpleasant, slow smile of a person who sees before her not a threat, but an interesting problem. So, you know how to speak, she said. Let us see how long that helps you. And Aaron understood. She was not going to kill him immediately. She wanted to figure out what he was. That was worse. After the conversation with Drite, his life changed. Not immediately, but noticeably. Supervision was strengthened. Rist became a little more tense. V disappeared for an entire day several times. Perhaps she was being questioned. Vern continued speaking with Aaron, but now more cautiously. Even the fires in the camp seemed to burn more quietly. But the most important thing was that fear no longer worked the way it had before. If earlier the prisoners looked at Dryght as an absolute force, now some had begun to see nervousness in her too. She is not just a chieftain. She is a person who fears losing control. And that changes everything. Do you see it? The voice asked. Yes. What exactly? Her reaction. She did not remove me. She is observing. That means I am useful to her as an object of control and dangerous as a possible symbol for others. And what will you do? Strengthen connections. Not hurry. If Dryght wants a trap, let her walk into it herself. I need more people and more trust. Do you already have a plan? I have a direction. I need an external blow that will weaken her confidence, and an internal resource that will allow me to offer an alternative. If the outside world begins to press, the Re-8 will look for a new solution. Then I must be nearby as the solution, not as the problem. The voice was silent for a while. Now you are thinking like a ruler. No, Aaron answered. For now, like a candidate for rulers. Salvation and the beginning of an empire came from an unexpected place. One day, the Varn camp was attacked not by humans, but by other Re-8. Not from Varn. From a neighboring, smaller, and less organized tribe that tried to bite off part of the camp supplies while the main forces were weakened. It was not just a raid. It was an attempt on the internal order. A short, furious, dirty clash began. Aaron ended up in the center of events almost by chance. He was carrying a bucket of water when he heard a shout, saw people running, the flash of iron, the noise of panic. Rist was already there. V2, the young warriors rushed to protect the warehouse. Aaron could not fight, but he could think. He saw that one of the passages in the camp would be blocked by a cart if it moved the wrong way. If that happened, some of the disorganized attackers would be able to break through to the medicine warehouses. And then he shouted to Rist in her language, the left passage. Close the left passage and cut them off from the fires. She heard. A second, and she was already giving an order. V led the young ones to the right. Vern, unexpectedly for everyone, brought two priestesses to the place where the wounded needed to be taken away. This was the first combat action in which different parts of the tribe worked almost like a single structure. And all because Aaron, who officially was no one, saw a systemic vulnerability at the right moment. After the battle, V approached him for the first time without irritation. You saved the warehouse. Yes. Why? Because without the warehouse you would have lost many people and then blamed one another. V looked at him for a long time, then said, that was a good order. Aaron did not answer, but the watch in his pocket warmed softly. And this was a very important sign. After the raid, Dryght had to praise those who had taken part in defending the camp. It was unpleasant, but necessary. At such a moment, the tribe loves winners. And it was exactly at this moment that Rist publicly called Aaron not just a slave for the first time. He warned me about the passage, she said before the other supervisors and warrior women. Without him, we would have lost the warehouse. The words sounded ordinary, but the effect was strong. Several Re-8 turned to Aaron differently. Not with respect yet, but already not as to a thing. Vern supported her. He knows how to see what is useful, the priestess said. That is rare. Even V, who usually stayed silent, muttered, he is not a coward. It was not praise in the full sense, but it was a name spoken aloud. And for power, that is almost always the first thing needed. Dryght did not like it when new centers of influence appeared in her tribe. A few days later, she summoned Rist, Vern, and Aaron separately, one by one, not together. It was a test. She wanted to see how connected each of them was to the others. Who would say what? Who would break? Who would stay silent? Rist came out of the conversation paler than usual. Vern with her lips pressed together. Aaron calmer than anyone, because he already had experience hiding inner tension. Then Rist found him in the evening. She asked too much about you. What exactly? Why you know the language? Why you speak so confidently? Why the priestess talks to you? Why the young listen to you? Aaron nodded. And what did you answer? That you are useful. That is true, but I did not say how much. He looked at her. Rist was silent, then quietly added, she thinks you are dangerous. I am dangerous. To whom? To bad order. Rist smiled tiredly, almost with respect. Do you really believe that? Yes. She looked at him for a long time. Then you need more people. Dryght will soon want to resolve the matter quickly. This was a serious signal. Aaron understood. Time was running out. That night, he spoke with the watch for a very long time. I need to speed up, he said. You have already understood that yourself. Dry will start pressing. Varen will not be able to protect me for long. Wrist is balancing. V is still young, but ready to listen. I need a common meaning. I need a story that will connect them all. You already have it, the voice answered. What? Not war. Survival. Your cities and their camps. The same mistakes on both sides. You were an archivist. You know that states rarely perish from the sword. More often from the fact that they cannot rebuild themselves. Aaron was silent. You mean I need to offer Varn not just peace, but a new way to live? Yes, but not peace right away. First safety, then exchange, then trust, then power. Empires are not born from one order. Aaron turned onto his side. I want to start with a council. With whom? With Wrist. With Varen. With V. And, if possible, with several young ones. That is a risk. I know. And still you will go. Yes. Then you are already not a slave. Aaron did not answer. Because it was true. They arranged the council in an old storage room that stood temporarily empty after the raid. No flags. No officiality. Only a small group of those who no longer wanted to be silent. Wrist came first. Then V. Then Varen with Kala. Two more young warriors whom Aaron knew by name. Torn and Sail. He stood in the center. I am not asking you to betray Dryght, he began calmly. I am asking you to look at the tribe as it is now. He spoke for a long time. Not loudly, but consistently. About the fact that we no longer gave the former benefits. About the fact that the young warriors did not receive a future. About the fact that the tall were losing memory if everything was reduced to raids. About the fact that Wrist and those like her would never be heard as long as the entire order was built on fear and constant attack. About the fact that Varn could be stronger not only in battle, but also in organization, in trade, in craft, in the way it used the forest and people. Varen listened with an unmoving face. V with tension. Wrist with obvious interest. Are you suggesting we abandon everything that we are? Sail asked. No, Aaron answered. I am suggesting that you stop being only that. Silence. Then Wrist said, if we do this, Dryght will declare us traitors. Possibly. An attack. Yes. And then what? Aaron looked at her. Then we will have to become stronger than her before she becomes stronger than us. It sounded almost like rebellion. That was exactly why everyone fell silent. Because for the first time, before them stood not just a strange prisoner. Before them stood a person who was offering another path. Aaron understood. Without magic, this would not hold. Conversation is good, but for a system to grow out of conversations, he needed to fix the important nodes. And the first such node was Wrist. He used the third level not as an order, but as reinforcement. Wrist came to him herself the next day. I thought about what you said, she said. And I think that if everything is left as it is, we will only die harder, not live. Yes. She was silent. If I agree with you, there will be no road back for me. Aaron nodded. I know. Then tell me honestly, are you using me? It was the most important question she could ask. And Aaron answered without trying to decorate it. Yes. But not as a thing. As an ally. I use your understanding of the system to change the system. And at the same time, I want you to choose for yourself how to live in it. Wrist looked at him for a long time. Then said, that is an honest answer. It was one of those moments where magic and reality coincided. The watch responded slightly, not with hypnosis, but with support. +10. After that, events began to develop faster. Some of the young began gathering around V. The tall began speaking more cautiously, but more freely. Wrist began putting forward practical proposals more often, and now they were no longer immediately rejected. Dryght saw this, and the more she saw, the harsher she became. She strengthened the guard posts, restricted movement between clans. She began holding public reminders that Varn's unity rested only on war and discipline. It sounded like a warning, but in truth, it was an admission of fear. Aaron understood that the time for the next step had come. I need a direct conversation with Varen, he told Wrist. About what? About what existed before the war. If I want to offer people a new path, I must understand what they lost. Wrist nodded. I will arrange it. Varen agreed to meet at night, when the camp slept. She brought Aaron into a small closed-off area beside her tent, where stone tablets, dried records, and several old objects were kept. It was not just a room. It was a museum, the tribe's memory hidden from the war itself. Gray kept this, Varen said, touching one of the tablets. After her, many wanted to throw it away. Dryght too. Aaron looked. On the tablets were not only songs and names. There were lists. Houses, fields, crafts, families, trade agreements, grain, winter expenses. Everything that proved Varn had once been not only a tribe of war. So you were not always like this, Aaron said quietly. Varn looked at him. No, we became this way because we were forced. And now you live inside that role. Yes, but the memory has not disappeared. No, she said. It has not disappeared. Aaron exhaled. This was the most important thing. Not a legend about war. Not a story of victories. But old records that proved the tribe had another route. If the young saw this, he said, they would understand that they have a choice. Varn slowly nodded. That is why Drite hates it. By chance or not, it was exactly the next day that Drite arranged a demonstrative gathering of all the clans. She stood on the raised platform, heavy, frightening, confident. But Aaron noticed a sharpness had appeared in her voice that had not been there before. She seemed to be hurrying. Our enemies are growing stronger, she said. Humans are strengthening walls, supplying cities, trying to cut us off from the forest. That means we must be united. And no weak voices must dilute the strength of Varn. Her gaze stopped on Aaron. It was obvious. An outsider does not know our road, she continued. And the one who listens to an outsider goes toward weakness. Some Riate exchanged glances. But Rist did not lower her head this time. V2. Varn even less so. Drite felt it and smiled. The one who doubts, she said, let them come forward. Silence. It was a challenge. And Aaron understood. If he did not answer now, she would take the space back. He stepped forward. The camp froze. You want unity, he said loudly. But unity is not built only on fear. You speak of strength, but strength without a future is just hungry rage. Noise in the ranks. Drite narrowed her eyes. You dare teach Varn? I dare speak the truth, Aaron answered. Because I have seen how your young live, how your priestesses stay silent, how your supervisors work, and how you fear losing everything if someone offers another path. These words struck exactly. Drite did not move, but the silence became dangerous. Rist stepped forward, then V, then Varn. And it was then that Drite understood for the first time that the problem was no longer in one prisoner. The problem was that a circle had already grown around him. Drite could have ordered Aaron killed right then, but she did not. Why? Because it would have provoked too sharp a reaction. Rist, Varn, V, and probably several young ones could have openly rebelled. And Drite was not stupid. She was harsh, but not blind. So she chose something else. She announced that Aaron would work separately under the personal control of the elders. This formally reduced his freedom, but did not remove him. It looked like isolation, not execution. And this turned out to be a mistake. Because isolation gave Aaron what he lacked: time and the opportunity to work more precisely. He now saw the structure of the tribe from the inside, while having less external noise. And most importantly, he was already believed. Aaron began with small things. Not with reform of the tribe, not with the army, not with war, with storage. He proposed improving the storage of food and tools during the rainy season to reduce losses. Rist helped convey the idea. Varn supported it, showing old records of how something similar had once been done. V attracted the young, who liked the very thought that their work could be part of something greater than simply dragging bags. The project was small, but it worked. Losses decreased. The fires burned more steadily. Food spoiled less. The young saw. If they listened to Aaron, things became better. This was the most dangerous thing that could happen for Drite. Because power that cannot improve people's lives begins to lose to the one who can. Sympathy is not love and not loyalty. It is readiness to give a person a chance. Aaron began gathering this chance bit by bit. He taught the young how to carry heavy loads faster and more safely. He helped Varn sort old records. He talked with Rist about how to organize shifts so that people burned out less. He even answered Drite's questions when she once again decided to test him. And each time the watch recorded more. Not always in big jumps. Sometimes by 1 or 2 points. But in total, it already looked like a network. Now he had not just people. He had an alliance. In the evening, when the camp slept, Aaron stood by the fire and looked at the dark forest. Are you satisfied? The voice asked. No. Why? You already have influence. They listen to you. There are first projects. There is a circle. This is already the beginning of power. This is not the beginning of power. This is the beginning of order. And the difference? Aaron thought. Power is when people fear that you will leave. Order is when they fear that without you, everything will fall apart. I am still at the second stage. That is very cynical for a person who was once an archivist. Archivists are the most cynical, Aaron answered. They read how powers collapse. And you want to build your own. Yes. On giants who killed your people. Aaron looked at the fire. On giants who also want to live not only by war. The split happened not because of Aaron. It happened by itself. In one of the Riate clans, a young warrior woman refused to take part in a pointless raid that promised little loot and many casualties. The elder Mar struck her in front of everyone. V and several other young ones interfered. An argument began, quickly going beyond the bounds of ordinary discipline. Drite demanded harsh punishment. Varen demanded caution. Rist demanded reconsideration of the raid altogether. Aaron understood. Here it was, the moment. Either Drite would push through fear, or she would receive resistance for the first time. He did not interfere openly. He did what he knew how to do. Connected people to one another and to a common idea. First Rist, then V, then Varen, then several young ones. There is no need to destroy the tribe, he told each of them. It must be made to work differently. And this word, differently, became the key. Not directly against Drite, but through a change of meaning. That same evening, Rist came to him without witnesses. If this goes further, everything will change, she said. Yes, and people will be afraid. At first, yes. And then they will understand that they have not lost themselves. Rist was silent, then said quietly, I no longer think that you are simply using us. This was the most important admission at that moment. Aaron looked at her. And what do you think? That you are also trying to survive. Just differently. He nodded, and the watch responded slightly and quietly inside his pocket. Sympathy had long since become something greater. Now it was the foundation of future loyalty. With Varen, everything came to the most important moment at night. The elder priestess came to him herself. I know what you want to do, she said. And what is that? You want Varn to stop depending on war. But it will not be simple. I know. Dry will not accept it. I also know. Varen was silent for a long time, then asked, if we try and lose, what will happen to the tribe? Aaron answered honestly. If we do not try, the tribe will lose anyway. Only more slowly. Silence. The elder priestess looked at him very attentively. You speak like a person who has already chosen a side. Yes. And which side is it? The side of the future. Varen slowly nodded. Then I will remember this conversation, she said, and perhaps begin to believe in it. It was not a full promise. But from Varen, it meant almost everything. Aaron understood that the moment was approaching when hypnosis would no longer be the main tool. It was needed for the first bridges, for those cases when sympathy had not yet had time to turn into a firm connection. But now he had more. He had structure. He had a circle. He had people who had begun to see in him not a prisoner, but a possible center of the future. And that meant the next stage would no longer be about survival. It would be about creating the first institutions of power, a council of elders, distribution of labor, control of warehouses, relations with prisoners, relations with humans, and, most importantly, a new story that Varn could tell about itself. Not we are eternal war, but we are a force that has learned to choose. At night, he spoke with the watch again. You have changed a lot, the voice said. Still little, but steadily. That is already another quality. Do you see? Yes. Then remember, the magic of control makes people softer toward your voice. But a real empire is not built on hypnosis. It is built on the fact that people themselves consider you necessary. Aaron listened. So I must become necessary. Necessity is power, but only if it is not confused with cruelty. Aaron thought, then I will build not just an empire. I will build a tribe that will remember that it can live differently. Well said. It is not ready yet. Nothing great is ready immediately. At dawn, the camp woke up already a little different. Not because the changes were enormous, no. Because now they had a center of gravity. Aaron, not as a chieftain yet, not as a mage, not as a conqueror, but as a person who had managed to do the impossible. Connect those who had previously existed on different sides of their own hierarchy. Rist held his side in practical matters. Varen gave legitimacy and memory. V gathered the young. Several others were already watching closely. And Drite. Drite did not yet know what to do with the fact that her tribe was beginning to look not only at her. And this was exactly the beginning of his true path. The path not of a slave, not of a prisoner, not even just of a mage, but of a future ruler.